YouTube, what's going on? Hope you're ready for the NFL draft. We will have coverage after each day, basically, after Thursday night's first round, then after the second two rounds, or rounds 2 and 3, pardon me, on Friday. And then on Saturday, we'll have a podcast for you every day here on YouTube, youtube.com/fantasyfootball today. You need to tell everybody, hey, the best NFL draft coverage from a fantasy perspective is Fantasy Football Today. Please go out and share with your friends, spread the word. This is not my best intro. Hit like, hit subscribe. Here we go. Actually, it is my best intro. Here we go. All right, the real podcast begins right now. For those of you not watching on YouTube, you should watch just for my terrible intros. Adam, Heath, and Jamie here on a Tuesday morning, and we're talking about NFL draft running backs, which we did not cover on yesterday's show, and the veterans that have the most to gain or lose via the NFL draft. So if the example I keep using, if the Broncos draft a running back, we're going to have Javonte Williams potentially in the loser column, those types of things. Heath, how you feeling about the draft? Yeah, 2 first-round picks for the Chiefs. That's exciting.
Yeah, and like 3 of the top 50 or 4 of the top 55 or something. No, I'm excited. It's, a few months ago we were talking about how this is like maybe not a very good draft class, and I think what it is there's a lot of guys who, in the right situation with the right development, could be very, very good, but they have really low floors. And so it's going to be interesting to see, after you get past the guys we think are going to be the top 5 or 6 in rookie drafts, who are the guys who land in situations that we get really excited about.
Jamie, I have a trivia question that I don't know if I have the right answer to, but I think I do. So okay. Let's roll with it. There are 3 teams that do not have a first or second round pick. Can you name them?
First or second round pick.
Wow.
Let's see.
I'll give you a hint if you need one.
First or second round pick.
3 teams. Yeah, I'm right about this. Whew.
Yeah, give me a hint.
Okay. So we all love the portion of the alphabet, LMNO. All 3 teams, their name, not the mascot, but the city name, starts with an L, M, N, or O.
Miami?
Yes.
Los Angeles Rams?
Correct.
And not New Orleans.
You can participate too. I didn't mean it just for Jamie. The third team. Is it the Raiders, the Chargers?
The Raiders.
It is the Raiders, yeah. Raiders, Dolphins, and Rams do not have a first or second round pick as of now. They could always.
Did you see what Chris Greer said? What he's going to do spending the first 2 days of the draft? First round of the draft Thursday night?
Oh,
watching Tyreek Hill highlights.
Yeah, who was it? It was Lynch, I think, because the Niners don't have a first round pick. So it's going to be a little boring on Thursday, but not for us. We're looking forward to it. So we'll get into to the running backs in just a sec. Well, we'll do it right now. First, we have some news. Tee Higgins shoulder surgery, Eli Mitchell knee surgery, a Green Bay Packers sexy trade rumor. But who is your favorite rookie running back or incoming rookie running back, Heath? Who's your favorite in this draft class?
It's Breece Hall. It was for me like a couple months ago. It was I was kind of having a hard time deciding between Hall and Spiller, and it was close, and the testing really separated them. You look at his athletic profile now, and he doesn't look too far from Jonathan Taylor. You look at it with the production that he had, and it's about as elite as any running back. So if he lands in the right situation, he may be one of those rookie running backs that is going in the second round and is a borderline top 12 guy.
Give me that right situation.
That's the hard part, because there's 2 teams, the Falcons and the Texans, who have clear opportunities for a lead running back, but geez, they aren't very good. I think the Texans are probably that spot, though, because I think the Texans are going to be better than what we talked about this before, than what the consensus is. I think they got 4.5 wins. I think they're closer to a 500 team, and I think the offense will be okay.
But what about the Bills? Everybody wants Breece Hall to the Bills.
I think that would be okay.
Okay. Jamie, who's your favorite running back in this class?
Yeah, it's between Breece Hall and Ken Walker. Both those guys are superstar potential. I think Hall's a little bit better personally, but I don't want to overlook, Walker's getting knocked a little bit for not having the pass catching numbers. I think he certainly can do it, though, and I think it will surprise some people when he gets to the next level. But those 2 guys, I think, are clear cut above the rest of the group. and Hall to me has got the most upside.
I do think before the combine, or I guess it was the pro day for Spiller.
It was both. He didn't run a 40 at the combine,
Right.
but he was at the combine and didn't have a great time there either.
But he was hurt he got hurt at the combine, didn't he, Spiller?
He did not get hurt at the combine.
I think he was dealing with an injury.
They were speculating that he
dealing with
came in with
something,
an injury. Yes.
Okay, came in with an injury, right? So the testing, it was probably a group of 3, maybe we would have been talking about with Spiller in there, and terrible 40 time for a lot of these running backs. By the way, they had bad 40 times, but he ran a 4.63 40 at his pro day. That is really alarming for Isaiah Spiller, and maybe he was dealing with some injury. You don't know, but that was pretty slow. Let's go through the news and notes. First, remember, we can get you in the podcast league if you fill out the form. It's in the episode description, and all you have to do is tell us the order of the top 10 picks, and not the teams. I think you probably know that, but the players that are going 1 through 10. Spell their names correctly, or it's not going to count as a proper guess. But I've told you this so many times. Entries close Thursday night at 8 p.m., so go ahead and fill out that form, and good luck to you. Most correct answers is in the podcast league. There will be some sort of tiebreaker as well. Also, if you want to learn about these prospects, Dan Schneier and Dave Richard wrote a lot of profiles on our website. They are super helpful. They're quick reads. They give you NFL comps. They give you strengths and weaknesses. They give you a little background on the player. They're well written. They're excellent. I really strongly recommend reading them. Just player profiles, scouting reports on these guys. News and notes. Tee Higgins had shoulder surgery. He's going to miss the offseason workouts. Jamie, any change in the outlook for Tee Higgins?
Not at all. The only change would be is if they draft a receiver. But as of now, no concern. As long as he's fine for start of camp, he'll be a maybe as high as a 3rd-round pick, depending on how quickly receivers go off the board, but almost certainly a 4th-round pick in most leagues.
San Francisco GM John Lynch said he cannot imagine trading Deebo Samuel. And also,
by the time you're listening to this, we'll have an emergency podcast on Deebo Samuel to the Jets.
Oh, man. Yeah, it could be that the most interesting things that happen on Thursday are not the draft, but the trades. Maybe Mayfield, maybe Deebo, maybe Waller. Talk about that in a second. Elijah Mitchell had a cleanup knee surgery after the season. He expects to be ready for training camp. Heath, I just found this very weird because 49ers running backs never get hurt.
Yeah, they do. They do have a lot of, and they never repeat. The other thing they never do is repeat from year after year as the number 1 back. But for now, it's kind of, I'd view it as a pretty similar situation to Higgins. As long as he's okay at start of camp, I'm not going to worry about it too much.
Okay, so there was a report that the Packers were looking to trade for Darren Waller.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really know anything about Cheesehead TV, but it came from Cheesehead TV, a guy named Aaron Nagler. Now, the write-up on NBC Sports or whatever Roto World has become said he has covered the Packers for a long time, so I don't want to just diminish him because it's Cheesehead TV, which is kind of a funny-sounding thing. But there is this report that the Packers are looking to acquire Darren Waller. Heath, should we take it seriously?
I think Derek Carr said no chance. He quote tweeted the report with a no chance, but he doesn't make those decisions. So I don't listen. I think the Packers are trying just about everything they can to find a way to acquire weapons for Aaron Rodgers, and they need to get multiple.
Don't you think if there was going to be a trade between Darren Waller and the Packers, it would have come as part of the Javonte Adams deal?
Seems
Right.
like it.
How weird would that be for the two teams to make a?
I mean, the only thing would be is that if the Raiders are looking at their salary situation after bringing on Adams and re-signing or extending Derek Carr and trying to say, okay, maybe Darren Waller doesn't fit with us long term. I don't understand how that would be, but financially it could be something if that's the case. And I'm just speaking out of no knowledge whatsoever.
I will continue that trend and say that if I was Darren Waller's agent, I would think that he would be in line for a contract extension or he's not going to be showing up, because I think he's making $6 million this year. There's like 20 tight ends making more money than him, and none of his money left on his contract, I don't believe, is guaranteed. His dead cap hit right now is 0. So I can't imagine he doesn't want a new contract.
There was some talk about that last year, if you recall, now that you bring it up, when he had the knee injury, that he wasn't going to return because he was concerned about his contract.
So what do you guys think about Alvin Kamara's hearing being moved? It was supposed to be yesterday, it's been moved to August 1st. I believe this is the second time his hearing has been moved. And we haven't heard anything from the NFL about a possible suspension. Maybe they were waiting to see how the legal case played out first. But now, Jamie, the Alvin Kamara's court case his hearing moved to August 1st. What do you make of that?
Yeah, the stuff that I read yesterday, it seems as if the NFL is not going to make a decision until there's at least a plea entered by Kamara, which you assume is probably be not guilty. So I guess it's looking like he's not going to face any sort of potential, suspension or ramifications from the NFL as of now. So I think if you're drafting, and I know Heath, this has been a point of contention for you, you should assume at this point he's probably going to play the majority of the season. So from a fantasy perspective, it's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't it feel like when, not if, is the video going to leak?
Yeah.
And if it leaks before there's a criminal decision, then maybe the exempt list comes into play. And if not, then exactly what Jamie said, it's probably just going to play this season.
I thought you were going to say, doesn't it feel like when, not if? No, I thought you were going to say, doesn't it feel like the Ezekiel Elliott situation from whatever that was, 4 or 5 years ago, where there was going to be a suspension. We just didn't know when. What happened? He got suspended and then he was appealing it or whatever it was. And then it happened basically mid-season. It was a 6-game suspension. And that kind of feels like that scenario.
Possible.
So, Jamie, it doesn't sound like you think he's going to miss much time. I mean, is that kind of, I think you basically said that.
As of now, that's the way it seems.
Yeah. It's very serious allegations. So, all right, we'll hopefully get more information. Don't draft yet. That's my advice to you. It's only April. Kadarius Toney attended workouts. He's back attending the voluntary workouts with the Giants. That's great. See if they trade him. Those were the rumors from last week. And big news, Friday is day 2 of the NFL draft, which might be the most fantasy relevant for us. The running backs are going to come off the board. Friday is also part 2 of, anyone know? Part 2?
Ozark?
Yeah, Ozark.
Yeah.
Season
already
4,
nice.
part 2. So we've got a lot of things to watch this weekend. No spoilers, everybody. It's going to take me a while to finish part 2. All right, let's talk about our rookie running backs here. Last year, we kind of went into it thinking that we weren't going to get a ton of difference makers. Obviously, the ETN injury was rough. We knew Najee Harris, Javonte Williams had a chance, but it was a weak running back class, sort of felt. And then we were excited about, some people were excited about Trey Sermon. That didn't work out. Elijah Mitchell ended up having a really good year. Ramondre Stevenson was better than we expected. Jamie, give me the overall take on what to expect. And it's so hard to know. So obviously I'm not going to hold you to it. It's hard to know until we see where they get drafted, which teams take them. But as of right now, on Tuesday, 2 days before the draft, how you're feeling about this running back class?
I think it's kind of similar, maybe without the potential of star power, but I certainly could see, Hall and Walker and maybe Spiller and maybe 1 or 2 other guys, Rashad White or somebody along those lines, Brian Robinson, if they end up in the right spot. It feels very similar to the Jonathan Taylor class, where they dominated the second round of the NFL draft and they ended up in some strong positions. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was the surprise that he went in the end of the first round, but then Taylor to the Colts, Swift to the Lions, Dobbins to the Ravens. And this feels like a similar group. I know Ryan Wilson's been saying that, for a while now, at least going back to when we were together on the set at the Combine, that this group feels like that group. And so I don't think we're going to get one in the first round. So I'm going to win our bet at him. And then you're going to see probably the second round. When Heath was talking about the Texans, that's the first thing I went to look was what pick they have in the second round. And 37 overall feels like a running back spot, so they can address, potentially offensive line at 3, which I think would be smart. Evan Neal makes a lot of sense there. They can address edge rusher at 3 as well, but they can go offense with one of their 2 first-round picks, 3 of 13, and then come back with a running back at 37. And whoever they end up taking at that spot, I think ends up in a good situation as well, as Heath alluded to. So it's a very good group. There will be probably 1 or 2 surprises. Like, I don't know if he's a surprise at this point for people in following it, but, Dameon Pierce from Florida, for example, he can end up in a tandem situation or a committee situation. And then maybe by middle of the season, or if not next year, be the best running back on his respective team. So there are some guys that may not make an impact right away. But hopefully there are a couple guys, like Heath mentioned, Houston, Atlanta, maybe Buffalo, a spot that we may not expect but could end up being good, once you take a step back and realize, oh, okay, the starter there is not firmly entrenched, and the second guy might be, good at some point. So there's going to be some good fantasy options coming out of this class, hopefully in, some starting spots.
Yeah, I would say I think that Breece Hulk is probably going to be either a number 2 running back or a borderline number 1. Walker's probably going to be a borderline number 2, maybe a mid-range number 2. Spiller for me is the wild card, because it's just like the testing was really not good at all. But the player, like what we saw from him as a player, looks like somebody who could really have success. And so if he ends up in the right spot, I could see him being kind of the surprise that ends up maybe being as good as Walker this year. But I could also see Spiller just being a complete and total bust. So I think he's the wild card of the class. And then there will be 1 or 2 guys from outside that top 3. But I really don't think there will be more than 3 running backs in the first round of rookie-only drafts, unless something really surprising happens.
I'm surprised, Jamie, that you and Ryan, I guess, are comparing this class to the Taylor Dobbins.
No. Not from a high-end talent standpoint, from when they're going to be taken.
Okay.
Yes. So round 2 and potentially round 3 is when I think we're going to see these guys go. Now, like I said, the group is not at that level.
Okay.
But they may end up fantasy-wise comparable. Again, Hall is, at least from a measurable standpoint, is very similar to what Jonathan Taylor looked like coming into the NFL. So right situation, who knows? Jonathan Taylor landed in as good a spot as you can ask for at the time, because the offensive line was fantastic and there was a clear, potential path for production. Dobbins, at the time we thought, okay, Mark Ingram, Gus Edwards, is this the best spot? Ended up by the end of his rookie season not being bad. So DeAndre Swift, same thing. We saw that there's the potential for it. So
yeah.
I think Spiller. It's kind of, I think, really the 3, 4, and 5 guys. Who's going to end up in those roles? Is it Rachaad White? Is it Isaiah Spiller? Is it a Brian Robinson? There's probably a guy I'm forgetting.
Well, Jayshon Corbin, I know, is someone that Emery likes a lot. I think the running back rankings, once you get past the top 2, are just...
Well, Spiller, I think, is pretty firmly entrenched as 3.
Yeah, and then like Emery Hunt has Ken Walker 10th. And I think Emery just lowers guys that don't have a role in the passing game, and he didn't really have one at Michigan State. So there's that. Yeah, okay, fine, if you want to put Spiller 3rd. But then you hear Dameon Pierce and you hear Corbin and you hear White, and I see a lot of slow 40 times, by the way. I think that kind of jumped out to me. The 4 guys I just mentioned, or I don't know how many I mentioned, but Spiller, Corbin, Kyren Williams out of Notre Dame, Dameon Pierce out of Florida, they all had pretty disappointing 40 times. And I hope that they're not all top 6 running backs in this class. I seriously doubt they will be, but Spiller will be. But I don't know. Like Heath, I can't really, right now, I can't really see us talking about this class changing the running back landscape in fantasy football.
I think that's probably
James
true.
Cook, Zamir White, those 2 guys, don't forget them too.
Yeah. And I think like Cook or Spiller, either one, if they landed like in the Chase Edmonds role in Arizona, then that could really elevate them. Some of these guys have skill sets where they do certain things really well. And if they land in those spots, then that could change things. But no, I don't think it's going to change the landscape of the running back position. But we've talked about all this transition in terms of dynasty, all the formerly just always top 12 running backs that are now 26, 27, 28 years old. Somebody's going to fill those spots. And so if a few of these guys may get elevated simply by the fact that the others are moving out.
All right. So that's kind of a little overview of the running back position, and we'll have plenty more to say about them when they get drafted. And when we come back, we're going to talk about players who are currently in the NFL, who has the most to gain, who has the most to lose in the NFL draft if their teams add players at their positions or whatnot. We'll come right back and break it down on Fantasy Football Today. So let's talk about the NFL veterans. And yes, anyone who's played at least a year, I'm considering a veteran, who have the most to gain or lose. And Jamie, let's start with Javonte Williams. So you gave me 2 players yesterday who have a lot to lose, Javonte Williams and Juju Smith-Schuster. And Javonte, the question I asked you, I think on FFT and 5 was at what point in the NFL draft, if the Broncos do select a running back, would it not really matter for Javonte Williams? Like if they select somebody in round 5, I know you're not going to care, but I guess, at what point would you be like, all right, Javonte is fine. Lock him in as maybe a round 1, definitely round 2 at the latest kind of pick.
I don't want to attach a round to it per se, because I think you could see a Spiller falling. You could see a Brian Robinson falling. Somebody that still has plenty of upside just because they don't get selected in the NFL draft because the nature of how teams draft that position. So, but I do think if we get to day 3, that's where you kind of feel safe. And you brought it up. Okay, round 4, certainly we see somebody there, maybe round 5. But obviously, if it's round 6 or round 7, you got to feel pretty good that the Broncos like Javonte Williams. I forget who I saw. I was just scrolling through Twitter this morning, and one of the Broncos writers wrote, "Is there a role for Mike Boone as like the tease for the story that they sent out?" So maybe they're just starting to or hearing things coming out of the building or reading the tea leaves that Mike Boone might be the second guy on the depth chart. So until we get past the draft and we see and Melvin Gordon signing and we see. Then I think Javonte Williams is in a pretty good spot. So, if they do fall into a round 2, I don't know their draft selections off the top of my head, so I apologize. But a round 2, round 3 pick of, Hall, Walker, Spiller, one of those type of guys, then it's probably not as rosy for Javonte Williams. I don't think a lot's going to lower his stock tremendously, but it's the potential of a crowded room that makes you worried.
Yeah, I think it's just like if they. I don't think surely they won't. But if they don't take Hall or Walker or Spiller, then I probably don't care unless they take Cook late. Like if Cook falls to round 4 and they take him, because I would assume if they're taking him, it's because they want to have him work in the passing game. And that would minimize Williams a little bit. But he's going to share with someone. Somebody's going to get 30, 35% of the touches. I just want Williams to get the passing downs.
So the Broncos, I thought to myself, well, they acquired Russell Wilson. They don't have a first-round pick. They probably don't have a lot of draft capital. They actually have 5 picks in rounds 2 through 4, but none of them are earlier than 64th. They got 2 picks from the Rams. I'm guessing that was for Von Miller, and they got one from the Seahawks late in round 4. But they have picks 64, 75, and 96 on day 2, and then 115 and 116. So, yeah, 64, 75, 96, that's definitely running back range and relevant running back range at that. So the Broncos do have some capital to play with. And, of course, teams could always trade up. So what their draft board looks like now could be very different. Now, Juju Smith-Schuster, another question I asked you, and I asked it yesterday on the full-length show, Jamie, was if the Chiefs select a wide receiver in round 1, do you think you'd rank that guy ahead of Juju Smith-Schuster? And you said no, right?
Yes, not as of now.
Okay. Heath, how about you?
Probably not. I'd probably still rather have Juju. I guess it depends. Are they taking the 4th or 5th wide receiver of the first round with the 29th pick? Or are they packaging those 2 first-round picks to move up into the top 15 and take Garrett Wilson or like one of the top 2? Like if they really make an effort to go up and go get somebody, then it's possible I might have them ahead of Juju, but for the most part, probably not. They probably both fall into that wide receiver 3/wide receiver 4 range.
The best case for Juju, them drafting a receiver in the first round, is Jameson Williams. Because, clearly there's plenty of upside there for Patrick Mahomes, which he'd love. And Williams may not be ready to start the season. So, Juju gets off to a fast start and hopefully helps you win a few weeks. And then you see what happens. And with Williams is ready to go, Williams could obviously be ready to go come week 1. So take that, for what it's worth. But if Williams slips, or as Heath said, the Chiefs, go up to get him, then I think that's the best case scenario for Juju of the rookie guys. But, you see a lot of Jahan Dotson mocked him. You see, Traylon Burks if he falls, those kind of guys. So they could impact Juju, obviously, in a negative way. My biggest fear for Juju is if they take 2. If they take, not just one in the first round, but one, later in the draft. And then you're like, okay, it's an indication of, and obviously from their perspective, Juju's on a 1-year deal. So, from their perspective, it's not just thinking about 2022, it's obviously the future. But also it's an indication that the Mecole Hardman experiment clearly has failed. And, Marquez Valdes-Scantling is not going to be as featured as he might have hoped based on his contract.
If they take 2, that is an interesting, because they have picks 29, 30, 50, and 62. And then they have 94 and 103 in round 3. And then they have a lot of picks. 12 picks. And I think Heath mentioned that right at the top of the show. 12 picks in total for the Chiefs. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the top 103 picks. I can't think of too many. I can think of the Cardinals the year they took. Was it Kirk and Isabella? Is that the 2 that they took?
Didn't they take Akeem Butler too?
Akeem Butler and Isabella, maybe it was.
It was Butler and Isabella, yes. Kirk was a year later.
Can't think of too many examples of teams taking 2 early. Because if they take a wide receiver in the first round, the Chiefs, and then they take another one in the 94th or 103rd overall, I don't know that would really make too much of a difference for.
I kind of think, and I mean, again, from guessing without knowing department,
right.
I kind of think they're going to use the first 2 picks either for 2 players or to move up for 1 player to try to improve the pass rush. That's the thing they've really talked about is the edge rush. And then I've seen a lot. I just wrote Sky Moore's prospect profile yesterday, and Ryan Wilson had Sky Moore going to the Chiefs at 50. And there's a website that lists where everybody's mocking players to, and over half of them had Moore going to the Chiefs, either with one of those first round picks or with 50. So I kind of expect them to use the early picks on the defense, and then maybe a couple of picks in round 2, 3, or 4 on wide receiver.
I'd also keep an eye on Tyquan Thornton because he was the fastest receiver at the combine. And
please no,
that's not in the first round. Not in the first round. No.
I want to know the last time the fastest receiver has been good. I feel like it's just not. It's just I don't know. It's just like Anthony
Tyreek didn't go to the combine, right?
No,
so he wouldn't have been that year.
Yeah, obviously speed is good, but those guys who run mega fast 40s, a lot of times they're just famous for their 40 times. But again, I just don't really have a memory of everybody's 40 times, so I could be wrong about that. But Anthony Schwartz is the one that pops out.
Kupp and Josh Reynolds for the Rams.
Okay, so these are potential losers. I was about to ask you that, by the way.
No, I was saying Kupp and Josh Reynolds were the 2 wide receivers taken in the same draft. I think 3rd and 4th round.
Oh, good. That's good. Kupp had a good rookie year.
But no, Kupp and Josh Reynolds were not my potential losers. My potential losers were Elijah Moore and Antonio Gibson.
Yeah, if the Jets take a wide receiver 10th overall, what would that mean for Moore?
Or if they trade the 10th overall pick for Debo. Right now, I view Elijah Moore as a guy who's a number 2, number 3 in redraft this year, number 2 in Dynasty, with the potential a month into the season to be viewed as a number 1 wide receiver. He was so good for that stretch in the second half of the season before he got hurt. And we've seen that from a lot of players of his caliber. And listen, this guy's a little bit better now, but AJ Brown, you remember that first half of his season was nothing. And then he had that great stretch in the second half. We saw it with Juju, his second half of his first year. And then year 2, he turns into a superstar. I think that trajectory is available to Elijah Moore right now. But if they go take a wide receiver at 10, that's terrifying. They've still got Corey Davis they're paying a ton of money to do this year as well.
Mm-hmm. And yet we never talk about Zach Wilson, by the way, as a potential winner. Maybe we should do that at some point. But who is your other potential loser, Heath?
Antonio Gibson. The Washington football team keeps bringing in running backs. After they brought back, apparently did some sneaky things to bring back J.D. McKissick. Man, if they draft Walker or Breece Hall, I don't even know where you rank Gibson.
You think they would? I
think they brought both of them in, didn't they?
They only have 2 picks in the first 3 rounds. They have the 11th overall pick, which is not going to be a running back, and they have the 47th overall pick. Unless they want to trade out of next year's draft, they don't have a ton of ammunition to move into the 3rd round. They have the 113th pick in round 4 and 189, which is round 6, and then 2 round 7 picks. So they don't have a lot of draft capital. Number 47 overall, maybe they go running back there. But they have 11, 47, and then 113. And then
113 is round 4, right?
Yes.
I mean, if the right guy fell to that spot, I wouldn't even like that for Gibson. Because with that little draft capital, why are you using a draft pick on a running back when you have Gibson and McKissick?
I agree. I think it would
And
signal.
Curtis Samuel.
I think it would signal that they may not view Gibson as a true running back because he has not been great in that role through 2 years, and he was barely had any carries in college. He was a wide receiver. This is all hypothetical, but I guess you could view it that way if they do.
The whole conversation is.
Right, yeah. Okay, let's get some players who have a lot to gain. Jamie, you have Aaron Rodgers outside your top 12. Is there anything the Packers can do to move him inside your top 10, let's say?
Yeah, Darren Waller and receiver. That would be fairly nice. No, not inside my top 10, but could see him getting closer to 12 again. Right now, he is the 15th ranked quarterback for me, which is odd to say. And as I told you in FFT and 5, to have him ranked behind Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr feels so icky. But I just like the fantasy situations for those guys better. Rodgers, I think needs to get one of these top tier wide receivers and hope that Sammy Watkins can stay healthy and that Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb can, produce at a high level. It just doesn't feel like a very good receiving core right now. And I know he's going to overcome the loss of Davante Adams because he's awesome. The Packers will certainly put him in good spots to succeed. But I just can't, trust right now, even with a high-profile rookie. If they do, something to what, Heath suggested about, packaging picks and moving up in the first round, then that shows you that they're going to be aggressive to address the position, which I think is certainly in the realm of possibilities. But as it stands right now, even with the addition of a rookie wide receiver, Rodgers will not be a number one quarterback for me. He will, however, be in much better standing and certainly somebody that I'd be more inclined to draft along with one of these questionable starters because we know what Aaron Rodgers is capable of.
Heath, where would you rank Aaron Rodgers if the Packers take a wide receiver in the first round?
Well, I mean, and I think this whole who could gain, who could lose thing really does kind of depend on where you're starting from, but it's more for me they've got to go get at least one, and I think they need to probably go move up to get one for me to move him up, and I wouldn't move him up very much. They'd probably have to trade for an established number one for me to get Rodgers any higher than 12.
Okay, that is where you have him now. That is where Dave has Rodgers. Jamie, as he mentioned, he has him 15th. Another player Jamie thinks could win would be Kyle Pitts, but you think this is more from a long-term perspective that they draft a quarterback?
I mean, it would be shocking at this point if Malik Willis gets past 8 to the Falcons. Everything that you're seeing is that Arthur Blank wants him, and he's an Atlanta kid. They have a huge need clearly at the position. They were aggressive in trying to acquire Deshaun Watson. They sent Matt Ryan away basically for nothing. Marcus Mariota is not the long-term answer. So Malik Willis to Kyle Pitts, is that something that's going to make him better? As I told you yesterday, at least at least you know that there's a quarterback that he can hopefully pair with and have success with for many, many years to come. So I think just knowing that he gets a quarterback, hopefully gets a high-profile quarterback, hopefully gets what could be the best quarterback in this class, and Malik Willis seems like a good thing for the long term of Kyle Pitts if Malik Willis is good. So this was kind of a stretch to say he's going to be a guy that gains tremendously, but I do think at least if you know in your mind what you're dealing with, it helps you determine what Kyle Pitts could be for the next 3 to 4 years.
Trying to find Malik Willis's over-under from Caesars. I'm not sure if they released it for him. You would think so, but I'm not seeing it in this article.
He's such a volatile guy, but yeah, it does seem like, and we probably should have always expected that eventually, the closer we get, one or two of these guys are going to get pushed up into the top 10.
Yeah. We'll see if the Panthers jump there at 6 to take him, but I guess
if the Panthers go quarterback, you're hearing it's Pickett.
I think the question is, will it matter? Do you think these quarterbacks are good enough? We're going to have to make that decision, right? Yeah.
I definitely think that Kyle Pitts having Malik Willis, if not, it doesn't help his floor at all because Malik Willis doesn't have a floor in the NFL. But it gives him a lot more hope and upside than being paired right now with Marcus Mariota, who could be a serviceable starting quarterback, but we know what he is.
Okay, Heath, give me a couple of names, players who could gain.
I had a pair of quarterbacks, Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence.
But not Zach Wilson.
What's that?
Not Zach Wilson. That poor guy.
Poor Zach Wilson. I just don't think, even if they added Deebo Samuel, I don't think Zach Wilson's going to be in anybody's top 18 or 15 at quarterback, maybe 18. it'd be really nice if somehow Jacksonville or the Bears could get Fields or Lawrence a real number one wide receiver. I think Darnell Mooney, the leap he's made from where he was is really impressive, but he should be your number two wide receiver if you want to have a really good passing offense. Really kind of the same thing for Christian Kirk, despite the fact they're paying him $20 million a year. I would love it for Fields if somehow, and this would be tough for the Bears unless one of them fall, if somehow they could pair him up with one of his former teammates, Garrett Wilson, or Chris, say his name wrong.
Olave.
The
Bears have 2 picks in the second round, 39th and 48th.
And that might be enough to get into the end of the first.
Yeah. Olave could be available late in the first. I thought I heard that his prop, let me see if I can find that. Olave's prop was like somewhere around 15th. And I don't know, maybe, those odds makers know things that we don't, but that seems early.
I've not seen it because for a while, I thought that the conventional wisdom this week was turning into Garrett Wilson's definitely going number 8 to Atlanta.
Yeah, a lot of that.
But I have not seen a real consensus on the order these wide receivers are going to be drafted. I think 1 or 2 of the top 5 guys are definitely going to be there at the end of the first round. If it happens to be Wilson or Olave, then that would be great for Fields.
So I don't know if Caesars changes the over-unders or if they just change the odds.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, Trayvon Walker. When was this article written? It's from Caesars.com. And it says, as April reaches the midway point. So this wasn't too long ago. Trayvon Walker's over-under was 3.5, which means you hit the under if he goes in the top 3, hit the over if he goes 4 or later. That's probably going to go under. So I don't know if they change the number or if they just, make it like minus 400 or whatever. Olave 17.5. And does that?
He's going before then.
Before then? Really? Because I've seen a lot of mocks where he's like the 5th wide receiver.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking Wilson. Excuse me.
Wilson is 10.5. That makes sense. But Olave at 17.5. I'm gonna try to find that because I think I'm gonna take the over on that. But it's such a departure from what I've seen in mock drafts that I'm just wondering, maybe they got some intel there. Odds makers always a step ahead. Okay. Well, we'd love to see Fields and Lawrence get wide receivers. It seems like Zach Wilson has a pretty good chance to have one of the better wide receivers added. And I don't know why I'm just going to keep talking about him. I know he had such a bad rookie year, but give him Elijah Moore. Not only give him Elijah Moore and maybe Garrett Wilson, maybe Jameson Williams at 10, but also potentially a stud left tackle, or if they want to play him at right tackle, whoever it is at 4. And the Jets, if Becton can bounce back and have a good third season, and Elijah Vera Tucker had a pretty solid rookie season, if they hit a home run with their 4th pick and they draft a wide receiver, which I believe will be an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman, let's say it's offensive line, and then they draft a wide receiver at 10, you really could see the Jets have a very good offense, maybe beginning, I can't say this year, but maybe beginning in 2023, right?
Well, this year. I mean,
yeah.
I think so, but nobody's talking about it, right?
What if the Texans take a star tackle with their first pick, and then at 13 they take Garrett Wilson or Olave, and then in the second round they take Breece Hall? They could have an outstanding offense.
Yeah, if things go right, if they hit on their draft picks, absolutely. The New York Post did an interesting breakdown. Just both the Giants and the Jets have 2 top 10 picks, which is unbelievably rare. I don't know if it's ever happened where 2 teams had 2 top. I don't think it has. 2 teams had 2 top 10 picks. And they looked at the previous teams that have had 2 top 10 picks and how they did. And typically it's make one, miss one, basically. Typically it's like one good player and one, not so much.
That's really odd because the NFL draft is always hits.
Yeah. But what I noticed is the more recent examples were better. Go back to the Colts in like 1992. They drafted Steve Entman. I'll have to look it up.
How did your Twitter poll turn out, Jamie?
The Giants?
Yeah.
Last time I looked, it was very heavy in favor of Malik Willis.
What was the poll?
The poll was, I was having a conversation with 2 of our producers who are Giants fans, and I said, would you rather have Malik Willis or Daniel Jones? And they both said Daniel Jones. And so I said, this is interesting. I want to see what Giants fans as a whole think. Dan Schneider was very offended that I didn't ask him personally. But Malik Willis or Daniel Jones, who would you rather have? Dan had a very logical explanation for it, as you would expect, about the rookie deals mattering and how much, picking up the 5th-year option, et cetera.
What a cop-out. That is so not. That is
First he gave his answer. He said Jones as a better decision maker and probably as a better passer, but the upside, I think, which I'll probably expect at this point, is Malik Willis. So you can read his answer if you'd like.
You have to take Malik Willis. How could you not say Malik Willis?
Well, but the real question is not that. The real question is, would you rather have Daniel Jones and the number 7 pick or Malik Willis?
Fair.
I don't think they should take Malik Willis. I think that they should.
If I was a Giants fan, I would want them to take Malik Willis, but I'm not sure. I would want them to, yes.
I've shared my thoughts on this. I think that they're all in on the 2023 quarterback class. They'll let Daniel Jones fail one more time. I think they're going to try to trade out from 7 and get a first-round pick next year and hopefully use that. And maybe they have the first overall pick, because I think they'd be terrible. But any capital they have to get the 1st or 2nd pick in next year's draft and take Young or Stroud. And there are other very exciting quarterback prospects, including the guy at Florida, the guy at Miami. Both these guys could end up being top 5 picks next year. It's just a much different draft class. So that's why I wouldn't take Malik Willis. I'd suck one more year and reset the franchise next year.
Right, but the problem is that what if Daniel Jones is good?
It's a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have. You can't run away from that, but help him out, try to make him better this year. But you take a tackle this year, hopefully that guy and Andrew Thomas could be really good next year, and you draft the quarterback of the future then. But I don't think the Giants are going to be alone in that thinking. I feel like a lot of teams want to have capital. I mean, I've mentioned this. I said this yesterday, so I don't want to keep repeating it. But the Eagles already did it. Right? The Eagles traded a first-round pick this year for a first-round pick next year, and next year's draft just looks so much better, especially if you're a team that might need a quarterback. I asked people on Twitter for their opinions, who has the most to gain or lose. And Josh Knutson said DeAndre Hopkins. If the Cardinals, now this was an interesting take. He said if the Cardinals draft an actual competent wide receiver to play opposite him, instead of faking it with the ghost of AJ Green or a gadget guy like Rondale Moore, that he could, I think he was saying, oh, maybe not. I thought he was saying that Hopkins would benefit, but I guess he's saying that Hopkins would lose, that he'd be a loser.
We saw Hopkins last year, right? He was so touchdown dependent. And so, I don't feel great about DeAndre Hopkins as I used to. And I was wrong on him with the move to Arizona initially. I thought that there was going to be a potential problem for targets based on how the Cardinals had spread the ball around with Cliff Kingsbury. And that proved to be wrong in the first year. But then you look at what happened to him last year when Christian Kirk played better and Rondale Moore was there for some spurts and AJ Green had some good moments. And then they brought on Zach Ertz and then Hopkins got hurt. But I mean, it was touchdown or bust essentially some weeks for Hopkins. And that was very frustrating. And you have to wonder, as he reached the point, especially last year, the first time he's missed time for significant injuries, is he starting to hit that wall a little bit? And I hope not, but it's a concern. And if they add somebody else, which I think they have to, to at least start to think about the future, is how much is that person going to be, or that player going to be a problem for DeAndre Hopkins? So I still think he's a very safe number 2 wide receiver. I don't think he's a number 1 guy anymore. He can certainly play like that, but I'm not drafting him that way. And if they added a receiver, I totally agree. I think it would be a negative for him.
Heath Jesper Hagen says Miles Sanders. He didn't say winner or loser, but I guess he thinks Miles Sanders just has a lot to gain or lose basically in this draft.
I think he is in a precarious situation. They are one of the teams that I think could draft a running back, and maybe that's the place where Breece Hall could go and just be spectacular. But this was not a player who was chosen by this regime, and the way he was used last year, and really the way he's been used, except for short stretches by multiple coaching staffs, suggests, kind of like you talked about with Antonio Gibson, maybe they don't fully believe in him as their lead running back.
Yeah, or for him, maybe they don't believe he can stay healthy. He's certainly not proven that. The Eagles have 5 picks in the first 101 picks overall, including 15 and 18, which unlikely to be used on a running back, but 15 and 18.
You would love it. You would absolutely love it.
If
any team uses a pick on a running back in the first round.
Oh, yeah. I would. Well, I would because Jamie and I have a bet. And of course, I said Jamie can't give away any podcast league spots if a running back is taken in the first round, but Jamie already gave one away. So
No, I didn't. I just suggested it to you. I did not give it away.
well, I accepted your suggestion. So
Well, that doesn't count.
Sounds like you gave a spot away already.
Yep, you absolutely did.
okay,
So we've given away like half the spots in the league already. We may have to have another league.
that's Jamie. That's what Jamie.
No. Actually, this person requested to be in any listener league.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So then the bet stands.
You know what we could do is just have the For the People League not be a 10-team league anymore, and then we could have more people in it.
No, we can't do that, Heath.
Because it's for the people.
Yeah, for 10 people. From Clint.
Why don't you have Robert run a like 20-person league if he wants to?
Who? The guy
Robert
you sent me the.
No.
Oh, our social guy.
Yeah.
He's got enough on his plate because we have the FFT Open. You guys may not even know about this, but we have the FFT Open, which is Scott Fish is in the chat right now. So Scott, don't sue us. It's our version of the Scott Fish Bowl. And it is run by one of our listeners. He's done it 2 years in a row. And it's something like 20 leagues.
Can we call it the Not Fish Bowl?
I like the FFT Open, but whatever you want to call it's fine. Clinton thinks Michael Carter has a lot to lose or gain in the NFL draft.
Agreed.
I'd argue that. Yeah. And Dustin Park says Devin Singletary, and that guy should be the headline.
That is one. It depends on where you have him ranked, whether he has a lot to gain or whether he has a lot to lose. I think I've got him at like 35. He's got a lot to gain.
Yeah.
Consensus might be closer to 20 when he's got a lot to lose there.
Well, the ADP that we looked at last week had him in the 80s. So overall, not a running back, obviously. So I think people are drafting expecting the Bills to upgrade at running back. And if they don't, then yeah, he's not going to be picked in the 80s, Devin Singletary. I'll read a couple emails here, and then we will skedaddle. Dave in Flint says, just listening to the wide receiver dynasty rankings dispute, you mentioned the Falcons taking a wide receiver with their first pick. I'm on board with that, but I wish you would have mentioned what it does to Kyle Pitts in dynasty. If the Falcons grab Garrett Wilson, what would that do to Kyle Pitts' dynasty rankings? And also, I'm curious, in dynasty, would you rather have Garrett Wilson or Jamison Williams? Who should those of us with the 1.1 grab if we need a dynasty wide receiver?
I don't think any wide receiver in this class would impact my dynasty ranking of Kyle Pitts. I think he's a better
guy.
What's that?
What if it's two guys?
I think he's he would be, if you changed his position to wide receiver and you put him in this draft class, he would be by far and away the best wide receiver in the class, right?
Yeah.
So
wait.
He'd be the number one.
Really? I don't know. You would expect him to put up wide receiver numbers?
I mean, he basically did.
He did, but I mean, do you think he's going to become like a 1,400 yard kind of guy?
I don't know that there's any yes, I think he'll have I bet he has a 1,400 yard season.
I hope so. That would obviously be a record.
How many wide receiver? I don't know who the 1,400 yard wide receiver in this class is.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't think that, that's fine.
But the other question, if you have the 1-1, you've really got to try to see if you can get to 3 or 4, and somebody will give you something because they want Breece Hall.
Okay. And you could also try
doing yet, Heath? Right now, you have the 101. Breece Hall for sure.
Oh, I've got 101 and 102. Yes, Breece Hall is locked in.
No matter where he goes.
Well, if he really stumbles like to the middle of the second round and gets in a difficult landing spot, then I'm going to take him at 102.
So he's 1 or 2 for sure. So let's say Walker to the Texans, Walker Texas Rangers, and and Spiller to the Falcons, and Hall goes to the Colts as Jonathan Taylor's backup.
Well, then I will not take Breece Hall.
the Colts.
That would be a very bad landing spot.
What if he goes to the Panthers?
This is probably, and I'd probably take those in those two into those spots. I don't want to do it again though. I still hurt over the Jonathan Taylor, Clyde Edwards-Helaire fumbling.
Well, yeah, you hear Breece Hall comped to Jonathan Taylor a lot. So if you are the Colts, what's better than one Jonathan Taylor? Why not have two?
No, I'm just saying, like, what's the worst? I said that before, when you asked the worst landing spot. I don't remember which show we did. I said the Colts or the Broncos, just where he's behind a young potential star or star already. But like if the Titans decide, we need a Derrick Henry replacement eventually, and they take Breece Hall round 2, like they did once upon a time with DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry, you pivot to receiver at that point.
It's possible.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd like to not, though. Please don't do that, NFL.
I have the 5th pick in another dynasty league. It's a super flex league, and this is traditionally a very quarterback heavy rookie draft. Always. I'm curious to see what's going to happen with the first 4 picks in front of me because I need help at running back and receiver for sure.
You should trade into next year's draft.
No.
Yeah, you should. It's so much better. It's so
much.
But
I could get, let's just say everybody lands in ideal landing spots. Willis goes to the Falcons, Pickett goes to the Panthers or the Steelers. So those 2 guys will probably be drafted early.
Yeah.
I could potentially end up with Ken Walker as the second best running back in a good spot, or my pick of the best receiver.
Yep.
If you're in a quarterback heavy league in dynasty,
but that helps if you're still picking at the back end around 1 too.
But you're going to have 2 picks in this scenario.
If you have a chance though at Garrett Wilson or whoever your favorite wide receiver or Walker versus random, I don't know what pick it is, 2023 pick.
Right.
You'll have 2 picks in 2023. You'll have your own and the one you acquire, which you in theory could package. And there will, if you're in a quarterback heavy league, the first 2 picks next year, well, Bijan Robinson, I think will probably be number 1. And then Smith-Njigba, 2. And then like the first 4 picks, 2 of them are probably going to be, I don't know. It's so hard to say. Could be quarterbacks with Young and Stroud. So next year is just so much better than this year, basically, I think, from an elite.
Yeah, but I could also stink again and be right back where I am too. So I end up with a pretty good receiver.
Which would be great. Then you'll get Bryce Young next year.
I can easily acquire a first-round pick throughout the course of the season if my team is that bad.
All right. Yeah, you could do that. Question from Trace in Vancouver. Full PPR, 1 quarterback, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, tight end. I need to keep 3 at no penalty. Jonathan Taylor, Jamar Chase, Aaron Jones, George Kittle, Justin Herbert. So Taylor and Chase, and then 1 more. Aaron Jones, George Kittle, or Herbert?
Jones.
Jones.
Cool. Let's see. I got some questions here in the chat. First of all, Scott Fish is going to sue me. He's super litigious, he says. And Gary Scott says, 10-team PPR keeper league. I can keep 3. I have Kamara, J.K. Bobbins. He's pretty good. Derrick Henry, Leonard Fournette, and Travis Etienne. Who are you keeping in PPR?
I would keep Kamara, Henry, and probably Fournette.
That's I think that Thursday and Friday night may decide between Fournette and Dobbins. But yeah, the Henry and Kamara are the 2 easy ones, and then probably Fournette.
Any rookie you guys think would be like a JJ or a Jamar type player?
Nope. Not wide receivers.
Is JJ Julio Jones?
I think JJ is Justin Jefferson.
Oh, Justin Jefferson. Okay. Yeah. Who's your favorite wide receiver?
Jameson Williams.
It's Wilson right now.
I'll take Drake London.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah.
The one I really am enticed by is Christian Watson.
He's so intriguing. Him and Treylon Burks are the 2 I think that can really sway how good this class can be if everybody ends up in good spots.
Yeah, man. All right. Looking forward to it. We'll talk to you tomorrow with a mailbag. We'll talk to you Thursday, very, very late or very, very early Friday, technically, recapping round 1, then again round 2, then again round 3. Have a great day, everybody. For Heath and Jamie, I'm Adam.